Good evening and welcome to the Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Blaine King. Tonight we're going to find out which Pittsburgh Steeler underwent knee surgery yesterday. And also we're going to look into how the Penguins did on opening night. And the chase for the World Series is intensifying. We will have the info on what's happening in the League Championship Series. And of course, we have your Pioneer sports to discuss as we are inching closer and closer to the River States Conference Tournament. And that's where we will start. The women's soccer team had their first home game in over 2 weeks, where home field advantage has not really been an advantage for them because they have a 2-4 home record this season. Megan Masiosi has the story if the Pioneers were able to turn their misfortunes at home into a positive. Megan?
The Point Park women's soccer team took on River State Conference rivals Ohio Christian Saturday at Highmark Stadium. It was a defensive battle with neither team scoring in the first half. However, the second half is where things really started to heat up. In the 59th minute, Ohio Christian's Lexi Pass scored on goalkeeper Rebecca Cohen off of a penalty kick. The Trailblazers were up 1-0 on the Pioneers. That is until the 82nd minute when Ohio Christian's Rachel Bingaman made a crafty move around Cohen to put the Ohio Christian Trailblazers up 2-0. However, Point Park did not give up. In the 89th minute, Izzy Hunter scored off a free kick to put the Pioneers down by 1. Still, the Pioneers showed a great surge at the end, but it was a little too late. The Pioneers ended up losing 2-1 to the Trailblazers, which dropped them to 4th in the River States Conference. The Pioneers have 3 games left in the River States play against West Virginia Tech University, Rio Grande, and Carlisle University. The Pioneers have 3 wins and 2 losses in the conference and travel to West Virginia Tech Thursday, October 20th for a 5 p.m. game.
All right, Megan, with 4 games remaining, the Pioneers have just 1 home game remaining this season. Do you think playing on the road is going to be a good boost for this team?
Yes, I do. 2 weeks ago, they went down to Kentucky to play against Brashear University in Midway, and they dominated down there. They won 5-0 and 3-0, so I think this team on the road will be better for them down the stretch.
All right. Thanks, Megan. Now, Josh Krupp joins me here at the desk to talk about how the Point Park Pioneers men team fared in their games this past week. We will look into a certain game as well as see how that turned out, because it was a nail-biting finish. Welcome, Josh.
Hey, thanks, Blaine. We have a couple great games to recap from last week from this men's soccer team who entered the week in desperate need of some wins. Point Park began the week having lost 5 of its last 6 contests, including 3 of the last 4 in overtime. Ouch. Point Park traveled to Rochester, Michigan last week for a date with Rochester College. Now, while it's called football by our friends across the pond, nobody told the Pioneers that they were not playing American football. Point Park put up a touchdown and converted the extra point in a huge 7-0 victory over Rochester. 5 players scored for Point Park, with Alan Ramos and Nathaniel Vanderwalt picking up 2 goals each. Trent Fowler and Roberto Whitley, along with Nafel Bichiba, also scored in the contest. Freshman keeper Manuel Piger made 2 saves in the first shutout victory of his Point Park career. Point Park outshot Rochester 28-9. Now, last Saturday, Point Park returned home for a conference game, and if you look up the definition of must win on the internet, Point Park Ohio Christian soccer highlights would be the first result. Now, I'll save you the trouble, and we'll give you the highlights right here on the sideline. It was pretty much a must-win game for Point Park Saturday at Highmark Stadium. Now they're trying to keep these playoff hopes alive here against Ohio Christian. This one a much different game than that Rochester one we just talked about. This a very low-scoring affair, a lot of defense. Point Park a lot of offensive chances here in the first half. It's scoreless. You see, they couldn't capitalize. They couldn't get anything in the back of the OCU net. But here we go, second half. Alan Ramos gets across from Roberto Whitley, punches it in the back of the net with his head. 13 games, Blaine, 13 games, 12 goals for this Alan Ramos kid. He's not bad. Gives Point Park a 1-0 lead. Manuel Piger, we're going to show off some of this defense right now. The goalkeeper for Point Park from Germany, boom, stellar. He was outstanding, got a shutout for the 2nd game in a row, made all 8 of his saves in the second half, preserved that 1-0 win for the Pioneers. This is going to give them now a 2-3 record in River State's conference play on the season. It puts them in a tie for the 6th and final playoff spot in the RSC tournament. Now there's 3 more conference contests left for Point Park. They're against West Virginia Tech and Rio Grande this weekend, and then Carlo to end this season. So there we go, a big win against Ohio Christian. Last night, playing an 8-0 shutout again for Manuel Piger, this time against Penn State Beaver. That one, they blew them out, 8 goals for the Pioneers. This team's on a roll, but a tough stretch coming up.
Yes, they do have a tough stretch, Josh, and they are on fire offensively, outscoring their opponents in the past 3 games by a score of 16-0, which is pretty big for this offense. But the main thing is on the road. Their last 4 games, three of the 4 are on the road, and this team has struggled on the road. They got their first road victory last week. But do you think we should worry about this team on the road? Because, like I said, they're 1-4-1 on the overall this season on the road, and 3 of the last 4 final games are on the road, and they have that 6th and final playoff seed. So, should we be worried about this team playing on the road?
Yes, you should be, because the next 2 games this weekend, West Virginia Tech, they're the number 13th team in the country.
Yes.
And then Saturday they play Rio Grande. They're the number 2 team in the country, the defending national champions. Chalk these up as losses. If they defeat either of these teams, it'll be the biggest upset in the NAIA this year, okay? Then they go on the road for their second to last game of the season. I believe that one's, where is that game? That one is at Washington Adventist. They have that at home, and then the last game of the year, they play as the road team against Carlo. So it's at Highmark Stadium. They get I think that's going to be their senior night, actually. So we're going to be honored on the field. We're going to be the road team, but it's still a home contest. And Carlo's not good. It's their first year of competition, but they're still fighting for that maybe seventh spot in the standings. So they could play spoiler in that game, and you better believe they're going to want to do that. But Point Park tied right now with Ohio Christian for that 6th seed, and OCU ends the season against West Virginia Tech and Rio Grande.
Yes, it's going to be a big final 4 games.
They need help from other teams. They need losses from other teams.
They're going to need help, and they're going to have to play sound soccer. But thanks, Josh. Thanks for joining me today. And coming up after the break, it was senior day for the volleyball team. Find out how they fared. And golf season is coming to an end. But we're going to find out, were they able to go into the off season on a high note?
We are a social people. We share our inspiration, wisdom, creations, and memories. We share what makes us laugh and what angers us. Built on the notion of a free flow of ideas, our country thrives on the freedom of speech. Without it, who would watch over our governing powers? And how would we share our history to make a difference for the future? It's this freedom to share that gives us a reason to listen.
All right, guys, any questions on the script? We good to go?
Yep, right. Should be good.
All right, great. All right, yeah, camera 3, set up right there. Camera 2, use the ball when you're moving this around, but set up for the 2 shots, just right there. Weather, how we doing?
It go rain.
Perfect.
Welcome back to Daybreak. I'm Sarah Mackin with the real host, Adrian Milone. We'll see snuggle up.
All right, prompter, we got everything in, we're good to go? Key Pro, everything loaded, we're good to go? All right, Tyler, any questions?
That shot looks fine.
3, 2, 1. Bring up camera 2. Open mics. Cue talent.
Good morning and welcome to Daybreak. I'm Blaine King.
Thanks for tuning in. I'm Aubrey Henkin.
And I'm Aaron Myler.
And this is Entertainment on Point.
Beyonce has surprised us again.
Kanye West just tweeted,
"This was a huge weekend at the box office.
A fan favorite TV show just got canceled.
Guess what band is coming to the city? And the award went to...
But did you see her engagement ring?
Her outfit was awful.
I would fire her stylist.
Tune in for all of your Hollywood gossip and pop culture news.
Entertainment on Point.
Get into the point of pop culture.
Welcome back. The golf team had a dramatic finish at the River States Conference Golf Fall Preview Tournament. Phil Papore joins me now on how dramatic the finish was for the Pioneers.
Thanks, Blaine. The Point Park men's golf team competed in their final tournament of the fall last week in Union, Kentucky. The River States Conference men's golf fall preview at the Lassing Point Golf Course served as the team's only tournament against conference foes before the championship tournament in the spring. This was a chance for redemption for the Pioneers, who fell 4 strokes short of taking the conference title to Brescia University in April. The Pioneers opened with a 5-man score of 320 in the first round, which left them in 6th place out of the 11 teams. The Pioneers rebounded in the second round, shooting a 308
to get within 10 strokes of WVU Tech's lead after the first day. WVU Tech shot a 3:01 in the final round, which at the time seemed like it would seal the deal, but the Pioneers would go on to write their own ending, rallying in the final round by shooting a 291 to force a playoff with WVU Tech. The Pioneers would go on to win the title behind junior Max Kaminsky, who won the individual medalist title with rounds of 74, 73, and 71. That was good enough for a 3-round total of 5 over, which was 5 shots clear of second place. The team will look to keep the momentum going when their season starts back up in the spring.
All right, Phil, how big was that playoff win for the Pioneers heading into the offseason?
That win, honestly, it was huge, because in the past couple of seasons, the Point Park men's team has kind of struggled through the fall. They've barely finished in the top 5 in most of their tournaments. So I think to end this fall season with such a big note, especially coming back, I mean, I know members of the team, and that loss in the conference tournament in the spring, I mean, it crushed them. They had the lead going in the final round. I think they had it going into the last 3 holes, and they let it go. So I think to come back with this 5-man roster they have, especially with Max Kaminsky, it's huge to get this win.
Yeah, and I believe that come springtime, they're going to be pretty hype about what this team can do.
Yeah, they have a great team.
All right. Thanks, Phil. The volleyball team has been playing lights out lately behind the senior leadership of Shiloh Simonson, Emily Mang, Kristen Burks, Madison Weldon, and Nikki Inquartano. With it being senior day for those ladies, Mike Turk has the story on whether it was an ace of a senior day or a service era. Mike?
Thanks, Blaine. It has been home sweet home. It has been for the Pioneers volleyball team this season as they played in their one and only match this past week. Cincinnati Christian University drove 290 miles to downtown Pittsburgh to play the Pioneers this past Saturday on Senior Day. Before the match, 4 Pioneer seniors were honored. Setter Madison Weldon, outside hitter Shiloh Simonson, middle hitter Nikki Inquartano, and setter Emily Mang. Although middle hitter Kirsten Burks is a senior, she opted out of the pregame ceremony. In the final conference home match of the year, Point Park came out of the gates firing on all cylinders. They never surrendered the lead in the first set, and they won 25-19. In set number 2, Point Park had to play from behind. They faced deficits of 16-12 and 22-19, but rallied back to win the second set in extra points, 27-25. Just like they did in set number 1, Point Park never surrendered the lead and completed the sweep over Cincinnati Christian 25-20. Simonson posted another double-double with 10 kills and 14 digs. Ashley Taylor contributed 9 kills from the right side, and Kirsten Burks hit .462 for the match and had 7 kills in the middle position. Mang had the offense rolling with 34 assists and 9 kills. Point Park had an impressive day offensively, hitting .362 as a team. The Pioneers improved to 9-1 in conference play and 13-13 overall. Taking a look now at individual player rankings in the conference, Emily Mang is 4th in the River States Conference with 701 assists. Nikki Inquartano is ranked number 1 for the second year in a row in total blocks with 102. Ashley Taylor is also ranked in the total blocks category at number 6 with 72 blocks. Libero Morgan D'Angelo ranks number 14 in the conference in digs with 288 despite missing a few matches this season due to a head injury. Point Park will play at Carlo on Tuesday night, then they will go back to Carlo over the weekend to play in a River States Conference tri-match against Brescia and IU Southeast. Point Park does not have a home match until November 8th when they play West Virginia Westland in a non-conference match.
Hey Mike, this team seems destined for a deep River States Conference run. Do you think this team knows that, or do you think they're just taking it one game at a time?
I think they do know that. They know they're good this year, 9-1 in conference play, but here's the difference. You can be confident and you can be cocky. I think this team is confident that they're going to go far. I am confident that they are going to go far. They have a lot of senior leadership there. Emily Mang, Shiloh Simonson, and just all the way around, an experienced team. Ashley Taylor on the right side, Morgan D'Angelo, we've seen her mature over the past 2 years. This team knows they can go far. They don't want to take a trip home early from the River States Conference tournament because they know this can be their year.
Cool. Thanks, Mike. Which Pittsburgh Steelers suffered an injury on Sunday and got surgery the very next day? And which baseball team lined themselves up in prime position to get to the World Series? Find out all that out and more when we return from break. Pioneer Sideline. We talk a lot about sports in the studio, but it's beforehand when the conversation is actually interesting.
I hope I have enough powder on. I don't want to be too shiny on camera.
No, Trevor, I think it looks good every week you pull it off.
Ah, thanks, Phil. Man, your hair looks great tonight, by the way.
You sure? Yeah, I mean, I got a new haircut, but it looks all right.
Perfect.
Hey guys, does this make me look fat?
No, you look great.
You look good. Yeah, Kyle.
Thanks. I was really.
Sports, yeah.
Ever wanted to be behind the mic and have the world listening to your show on campus? Well, it's just as simple as joining WPPJ, Point Park's student-run radio station, located on the second floor of Lawrence Hall, right next to the dining services. Listeners can tune in using Point Park's website or through the TuneIn app by searching WPPJ. WPPJ welcomes any new DJs that want to get involved, so be heard. Do you have what it takes?
Well, no one showed up to the show tonight. Follow my lead. In 3, 2, take 2, open mics, Q Talent. Good evening and welcome to UView News. I'm Josh Croup. We begin with breaking news out of West Penn Hall. Ready, 3, take lower third. Traffic is backed up in the West Penn elevator line after elevator 1 broke down on the 7th floor. Lose lower third. Maintenance advises students to take the stairs to avoid delays. Ready, 2, take 2. In other news, no, you know what? I didn't sign up for this. We need crew. Join UView. Take alien hand transition.
The injury bug has been plaguing the Steelers all season, and on Sunday it struck again at a key position. Ashley Morris has the story on that in our regional news report.
Thanks, Blaine. The Steelers suffered a devastating loss to the Miami Dolphins, ending the game 30-15 on Sunday. Darius Hayward-Bay received the only touchdown for the Steelers in the first quarter. The Dolphins then came back and dominated in the second and third quarters when they scored 3 touchdowns. In the fourth quarter, Kobe Hamilton registered his first career touchdown for the Steelers, pulling the Steelers within a touchdown late in the fourth quarter. Even with the heavy loss on Sunday, the Steelers may have lost something even bigger than the game. Star quarterback Ben Roethlisberger tore his meniscus in his left knee and underwent surgery on Monday. Roethlisberger was injured in the second quarter and briefly left the game before returning in the second half. Landry Jones took Roethlisberger's place after he left the game, and Jones will likely be the fill-in starter. There is no timetable as to when Roethlisberger will be back, but it is not expected to be long-term. The Steelers' record is now 4-2 as they host the New England Patriots on Sunday. The Pittsburgh Penguins won their first 2 games of the regular season when they faced the Washington Capitals and the Anaheim Ducks. The game against the Capitals was a wild one as Washington led after the first. The Penguins came back in the second with 2 goals from Patrick Hornquist and Evgeny Malkin. The Capitals scored 1 more in the third, and that took the Penguins into sudden death overtime. However, neither team scored. Finally, with 2 shootout goals from Malkin and Letang, Phil Kessel scored the third. Fleury had a monstrous save on Alex Ovechkin's shot and took the season opener victory for the Penguins. On Saturday, the Penguins played the Ducks and won 3-2. Goals came from Ian Cole, Phil Kessel, and Connor Sheary. On Monday, the Penguins had a devastating overtime loss to the Colorado Avalanche when they lost 4-3. Goals came from Matt Cullen, Phil Kessel, and Trevor Daley, but it just wasn't enough to push the Penguins to get another win. Penn's captain Sidney Crosby has yet to join the lineup after being diagnosed with a concussion, and veteran goalie Marc-Andre Fleury started in the net for all 3 games. We'll see how the Penguins fare in the next game when they play the Montreal Canadiens on Thursday.
Ashley, Ben is officially out this Sunday against the Patriots, but is slated to be week to week. Do you think the Steelers should rush him back after the bye week or just wait to see where he's at?
No, I don't think that Ben needs to rush back. I think Landry Jones, once he has that week to practice with the team, he's not very good when he has to come right in. But as long as he has that week, Landry Jones can prove to be a dominant player for the team. So, no, I don't think they need to rush Ben back. I think they need to let him, since this is a recurring injury with his left knee, I think they need to let him chill out and recover well.
Thanks, Ashley. The League Championship Series is heating up, and there were some great games this weekend. Sarah Maculin has the coverage on what happened in those games. Sarah?
MLB postseason is down to its final 4 teams. The Toronto Blue Jays and the Cleveland Indians are battling for the American League Championship title. Cleveland won the first 3 games by a score of 2-0, 2-1, and 4-2. Game 4 just went final in Toronto, with the Blue Jays defeating the Indians 5-1 to avoid the series sweep. In the National League, the Chicago Cubs and the Los Angeles Dodgers are facing off to decide who will move on to the World Series. Their series currently sits tied at 1 game apiece. The Cubs won Game 1 in dramatic fashion 8-4, but the Dodgers came back in a Game 2 pitching gem by Clayton Kershaw, winning 1-0. Game 3 is scheduled for tonight at 8 o'clock. The NHL regular season kicked off last Thursday with a matchup between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators. Toronto rookie Austin Matthews made his NHL debut in the game and put on a show. Matthews scored all 4 of Toronto's goals and achieved a hat trick just over a minute into the second period. The Maple Leafs ended up losing the game to Ottawa in overtime 5-4. And finally, on to the NFL. So far, the 2016 regular season has been a competitive one amongst the 32 teams and an exciting one for fans as well. Heading into Week 7, there has already been 50 games decided by 7 points or less, the highest total through 6 weeks since 1990.
All right, so Sarah, how big is Clayton Kershaw going to be for the Dodgers in this series against the Cubs?
I think he's huge. I mean, he already made an impact going back to the National Series in Game 5. He came in and got his first save ever. So, I mean, he made an impact there. And then Game 2, he had the pitching gem.
Yes.
And so it looks like he's set up to pitch Game 5 and possibly another
Game 7.
Game 7 Kershaw-Arrieta matchup. I just think what he's done so far, I think it's what's going to put the Dodgers over the top.
What I believe is if the Dodgers get one stellar pitching performance from another pitcher, Kershaw is going to be in prime position to not only get his team to the World Series, but he's going to capture the NLCS, the National League Championship Series trophy. He's going to be the MVP of the NLCS.
Oh, I completely agree.
All right. Thanks, Sarah. After the break, we're going to have one of the most intense cases of the week, as we have three-year vets of Sideline who will join me to discuss some NFL topics.
It's been the most unpredictable election in U.S. history.
And on November 8th, we'll bring you the historic conclusion.
Donald Trump,
Hillary Clinton,
Pat Toomey,
Katie McGinty.
America is writing the next chapter in its history book, and UView is your only source for election night coverage. Election Night 2016, live from the Center for Media Innovation, Tuesday, November 8th at 8 p.m., only on UView.
Every human being has a purpose, has a dream to have their voices heard, no matter where they come from, no matter where they go. As an American, it is their right to have freedom of speech. I have a dream that one day this message will speak louder than words, that even the quietest voice will not go unnoticed. That is my dream. What is yours? For more information, visit www.freedomofspeechpsa.org.
Welcome back, and it's that time of the show for our Cases of the Week. Joining me today will be Phil Papore, and making their Sideline season debut is Paul Daniels and Trevor Sheets. All right, gentlemen, let's get started. So is OBJ going to be a problem for the New York Giants? Let's start with Mr. Giants himself right here.
Well, I don't think he's a problem so far. I mean, yes, the media has blown a lot of things out of proportion. Okay, say what you want. This guy is an elite receiver in the league. Top 3.
And a giant distraction.
Giant distraction.
Yes.
Because of the media.
No, because he's running all around the field pretending like he's doing a long jump. He's proposing
Everyone
to the
celebrates.
field goal net.
Yeah. It's got the mindset of a 4-year-old.
No, wait a minute. There has been many instances where people have acted up on the sideline. This past weekend, Richard Sherman going crazy on the sideline with his defensive players. We're not talking about that, though, because he's not Odell Beckham.
Well, he was going crazy because there was a blown coverage, and he was angry that there was a blown coverage
Right,
that
but
led to a touchdown.
it's not blown out of proportion.
And
he's going up to his head coach and screaming at him, and Odell is just, doing some antics on the sideline.
That could
and
hurt his team. That could
a
hurt his
victory.
team. He takes his helmet off. They
On
get
the
that
field.
15-yard penalty. They're lucky that didn't cost them.
But in the
If the
end,
Ravens go down and
Odell
drive-
helps you more than he hurts you.
But Eli, I heard a quote from him saying, right now we're winning, and it's fine. So he can deal with the distraction right now, but as soon
500.
as the Giants start losing more,
average.
Well, that's
it's going
the
to be
thing.
a bigger issue.
That's the thing. When in the NFL, losing everything gets blown out of proportion, and winning solves it all. We didn't hear about the Odell antics this weekend because we won the game, and he had
We're
over
talking about them right now.
over 200 yards. Yeah, we're talking about them, but it's not a highlight on major.
And they also
on
asked
major
Eli
sports shows
Manning
right
in
now.
response to his antics that happened on Sunday.
Yes. It would have been very.
Of course.
We would have been talking about Odell all this week if they lost that game, because that put the Ravens in prime position. You suppose the Ravens go down and score with 10 seconds left, and the
That's on
Giants
OBJ.
have no way to come back and win that game? They're talking about OBJ. He is an elite receiver, though. I do agree.
You can't,
Top
you
five.
can't disagree with the fact that he's an elite receiver, but his mindset.
Is-
I mean, it's all about him. If
Can't
he
bring
does
age into the
well,
factor.
if he
No,
does
it's
well,
all
the
about
Giants team.
him.
It is
It's
all
all
about
about the team winning. That's
Not
what it's
for
about.
him.
And it's gonna be
He even
issue.
says, "I'm not having fun playing football anymore. Everything's
Right, but-
I'm. It's not the team."
But he disagrees when they are losing. He thinks the most important thing is winning. He just has a tremendous amount of passion for the game.
You can
Well,
have
he's
a
got to
tremendous-
channel that passion. I'm sure everyone
Most
has a
NFL
tremendous-
players
Yes, he's
have a
young.
tremendous amount of passion.
All right.
A lot of them know how to control
He's
because they're
young. He's
adults
gonna
and not
learn.
5-year-olds.
Okay.
He's going to learn. He's 23 years old.
And getting paid a lot of money to behave himself.
All right, so gentlemen, I'm going to get this straight. You're saying no, and you two are saying
course
yes.
no.
He's a distraction.
Until he changes his mindset, he's a distraction. Yeah.
Okay.
The talent's there. I'll agree with Paul. The
Yeah,
talent's
the
there,
he's
but
an
you gotta get the
absolutely talented
mindset.
player. I will agree with you on that point.
All right. So, next subject, NFL MVP. Who's going to be the MVP towards the end of the season? Who do you think is going to be the NFL MVP?
Well, the guy who's leading in passing has his team at 4-2 and at the top of the NFC South, Matty Ice and the Atlanta Falcons.
Weak. I'm gonna go with the team that's 5-1. This may come as a surprise because he's a rookie, but I'm gonna go with Ezekiel Elliott.
Ooh.
Paul. Okay, well, Ezekiel Elliott, I can see it, all the hype, with his 700 rushing yards. He leads the league in that, but he also has the greatest O-line in football right now. And Matt Ryan is having a great season so far. It's hard to argue with that, but Drew Brees, the 2-3 Saints. Now hear me out.
2-3.
This team has only played 5 games, so one less game than both your guys. He has 14 touchdowns and 4 picks. Matt Ryan, 15 touchdowns, 3 picks. So, by the end of the season, he's looking to have more touchdowns, and we'll see. It could be an even race for picks. Passing yards, he's 4th in the league with 1 less game. He also has the second worst defense in the NFL, worst defense in points per game.
And while statistically, you're right, that defense is going to be the downfall. Can you tell me the last time there was an NFL MVP with a team with a
not in the playoffs.
a team with a losing record?
Well, I'm not projecting the Saints to have a losing record by the end of it. I'm not. They're 2-3. They can turn it around.
but their defense is terrible.
That's not going to change. How
Their
is that gonna
defense
change?
is terrible, and he's still putting up numbers. He is still putting up
And
top
they've
five
only won
numbers.
twice because of that.
It's not.
How would you feel if you were the quarterback going into every game knowing your defense is going to give up 33 points?
Ridiculously frustrated.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Not very good.
And he still has 2 wins?
All right.
I see this team
All right,
turning
you're
around.
explaining a lot. Phil, I need you to explain your case before we go to our last subject.
I'm going with Elliott because look at his team. They lost Tony Romo, and everyone said Cowboys are done. They have Dak Prescott, the rookie, who I will say is doing well. But their kind of mindset with him is don't throw picks, which he hasn't done, but he's not playing at a star level as Breeze
manager,
or Ryan.
yes.
He's being a game manager, and they're literally using the back of Ezekiel Elliott to get these wins. He already has 703 yards in 6 games. He's averaging like 115 yards a game. He has 5 touchdowns. I mean, he is carrying this team through the first part of this season.
You actually are making my point for me, though. We're talking about MVP at the end of the season. This player has never played 16 games in the NFL. He is carrying the Cowboys. Unless Paul's favorite quarterback, Tony Romo, decides to show back up, there's no way that Ezekiel Elliott is going to be able to carry this team through a 16-game season.
But like they said, with him having such a great O-line, I think Ezekiel Elliott is going to make it to the end of the season.
I think he is going to have a great season. And he's going to win probably Rookie of the Year. But
Maybe.
to be the MVP,
I don't think it's going to happen.
That's a different story.
Personally, but I see your point there. All righty. So you each have to say, who's going to be the best team in NFL by the end of the season? Who? Paul.
Well, I'm looking at the undefeated team right now, and that's the Minnesota Vikings, the sole undefeated team. And I don't know a more complete team in the NFL. They're number 2 in defense. They're number 1 in points allowed with 12.5 points per game only allowed. And the Minnesota Vikings, until you beat them, how can they not be the best team?
Easy, because you can't depend on their offense.
Yes, their offense.
Sam Bradford, I'm on the Sam Bradford bandwagon this year. I think he can do well with the Vikings. He's an unproven commodity going into the playoffs and everything. We don't know what to expect out of him. And there's a guy by the name of Jerick McKinnon. Have you heard of him?
Yes.
Not many people have.
Well,
because he has always been second fiddle. Adrian Peterson has played, 3 games, has 174 yards rushing. The offensive stats aren't there for the Minnesota Vikings.
But then again, you can say the same thing. Their defense is as good as their offense, right? And they have won so many games with their defense and special teams producing at a high level.
All right. Phil?
I'm going to go with another team in the NFC. I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks. First off, their division isn't that great. I think it's obviously a horse race between them and the Cardinals. So I see the Seahawks easily making the playoffs. I think they can get a bye. They have a proven quarterback in Russell Wilson. And the defense has been a little lacking. They didn't play great against the Falcons, but they managed to get the win. They came from behind, and I think once you get Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, assuming his injury isn't too bad, I see this defense coming together as the season goes on, and that defense leading them into the playoffs at the Super Bowl.
Trevor.
The best team in the AFC brought back one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, has the best tight end in the NFL, New England Patriots, 5-1. The only loss was to a Buffalo team that's actually pretty good this year. And Brady's back. He's performing well. Gronkowski's starting to get back into the flow of things. They won 3 games with 2 quarterbacks that wouldn't start on any other team.
Good point.
I'm not sold on the Seahawks over there. This is an up and down team. You know, they're 4-2. And they're trying to find their way. They lost to the Rams, scoring 3 points.
But the Rams, they are 3-3.
Okay.
The Rams also
500, same as the Giants.
The Rams defense is also one of the elite defenses in the league. Just putting out the fact right there.
I mean,
and they
most
always
complete
struggle every
team
year.
in the NFL, Minnesota Vikings, special teams, defense, and their offense isn't that bad as it looks. Sam Bradford isn't turning the ball over as much, and he's playing well so far in the season.
But if they can't rely on the running game moving forward, it's going to be all on Sam Bradford, and I don't see him being able to put up these star QB numbers.
Norv Turner has turned Sam Bradford around, though.
Yeah, making a good point about Sam Bradford. All right, so if I had to pick a winner here, let's see who it would be. Paul, you make a great point about OBJ. The skill set's there. He's not a distraction because they're winning right now. Great point. Made a great point about Drew Brees. Your downfall, though, on both subjects is Drew Brees has a losing team.
Right.
A losing team, there's not going to be an MVP of a team that's
what if they go 9-7? They can go 9-7.
I highly doubt they go 9-7.
Not like
let's make a bet.
As for the Vikings, you have to look at it this way. They make a great point. Sam Bradford's playing well right now, but we have to wait to see how he plays in December because he's never been in the position where we can see him excel. So it's going to be interesting to see. Norv Turner has turned him around.
Right.
Phil, to your point, I do agree. Zeke is going to be great. He's going to have a good season. He's going to have well over 1,300 yards. He's a rookie, though. And if Tony Romo does return to that starting lineup, it's going back to chucking the ball downfield. You make a good point about the Seattle Seahawks, though. I think they're going to be a danger team come December, January. Trevor, I have to pick you as my winner. Matt Ryan's playing lights out. But in the MVP race, I don't think he's going to be the MVP come the end of the season. I actually think it's going to be a little guy up in Seattle. I think Russell Wilson might come back and take that MVP trophy away. You do make a great point about Odell. He's a distraction. He's going to be a distraction. If the Giants start losing, it's going to be a distraction. And to your point, New England Patriots, their offense, they're the most complete team. Well, I thank you all for joining me today. And I thank for all the reporters and the crew that helped out with today's show. Join us again next week to see if it was Landry Jones or Zach Mettenberger that was under center for the Steelers against the Patriots. And the World Series will officially start. Find out which team is going to be playing in the World Series and who we think is going to win and in how many games. And of course, we have your Pioneer Sports, as they will be 1 week away from the River States Conference Tournament. So join me again next week at the same Pioneer time, at the same Pioneer place, and of course, the same Pioneer sideline.